When I started doing political videos in addition to doing science videos, I knew already that many intelligent and skeptical people turn it all off and become dogmatists in the political arena. But I had no idea I'd have to go as basic as explaining what the free market is. With so much written about it, so much information freely available, not understanding this is akin to not understanding why sunrise is an illusion. When someone as intelligent as Thunderfoot doesn't even understand it, you realize that this is a serious problem and something must be done. So this video is going very basic about what the free market is and what it is not. First of all, let's hear the straw man from Thunderfoot.
Profitability is the only metric of success in capitalism.
Here we get to the root of the common misunderstandings of free market capitalism. The idea that everyone should seek a profit, and profit is good, maybe even the only good. This is absolutely false. Free market capitalism is not based on the idea that profit is good, but on the acknowledgement that no matter what the economic system is, people will always do whatever they can to seek profits. Incidentally, when I say people, I do not mean every single person. I mean enough to have a significant economic effect. In a socialist system, people will seek out positions that give them the authority to make economic decisions. The more greedy the person, the more they will do to put themselves in this position. In a corporatist system, like the one we have in the US now, people will go to great lengths to obtain favorable legislation for their corporation while making it more difficult for their competitors. In a system under prohibition, people will engage in criminal activity in order to reap the massive profits that come with the black market. Again, the greedier the person, the more they will do to get as many benefits as they can while keeping competition at bay. So no matter what the economic system, no matter what the political policy, no matter what laws have been drafted, people are always going to be seeking profits. And the greedier the person, the greater lengths they will go to in order to obtain it. Free market economics does not say this is good. Instead, it is a recognition that this is going to happen and that a sound policy should be constructed around this basis. The idea that people seek profit is therefore descriptive, not prescriptive. To see how this works, we have to look at the very idea of what free means. In essence, at its very core, free means in the absence of force. In an ideal free market, there would be no force or fraud at all. Everyone would engage in voluntary transactions that increase wealth for all involved parties. Of course, no one is so naive as to think this will actually happen. Acknowledging that people will seek profits means acknowledging that greedy people will engage in force or fraud to obtain them. The market has two ways of dealing with this. The first is to make force or fraud unprofitable. Concepts I have introduced into other videos come into play here. Economic equilibrium keeps businesses from gouging prices or paying too little to their workforce. The wisdom of crowds helps everyone benefit from all the available information in the market without anyone having to actually possess all of that information. And the social nature of human relations automatically favors those who do business in a peaceful and friendly fashion over those who use forceful tactics. This is why clerks are taught to smile and say, "Have a nice day." As Sharon Harris has said, a smile has currency. These and other effects come into what Adam Smith famously called the invisible hand. Like evolution, it's a bottom-up system of self-organization that, despite its imperfections, can achieve some truly wonderful things better than any human designer could do. Of course, while the invisible hand disincentivizes forceful or fraudulent behavior, it by no means prevents it completely. So for those cases, you need the second part of the free market system, the rule of law. Since force is not allowed in the free market, the rule of law is in place to defend against and punish the initiation of force or fraud. In free market libertarianism, the government's job, in fact, the government's only legitimate job, is to stop the initiation of force and fraud as much as possible, whether it's from a dishonest player in the free market, from an armed criminal gang, or an invading army. One thing the government should never do, therefore, is initiate force on its own, and that includes making policies that interfere with the inner workings of the economy. In anarcho-capitalism, the role of government is replaced with mutual protection societies, voluntary arbitration agreements, contract insurance, and other means, but the idea is the same. People should have a means to protect themselves from the initiation of force or fraud. That is how the free market deals with the problem of some people having power over others. It doesn't let anyone have that power to begin with. That cannot be said for any other political philosophy. Whether you're talking small government libertarianism or no government anarcho-capitalism, the basis for this protection is the same: property rights. Property rights gives you the right to do as you wish with your own property, so long as you do not violate the property rights of others. Now understand that in the free market, property is not just land and possessions. You own yourself. You own your time. You own your labor. John Locke wrote, no, not that John Locke, wrote, "No one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions." A more detailed expression of this idea appears in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, written by George Mason: that all men are by nature equally free and independent, and have certain inherent rights, of which, when they enter into a state of society, they cannot, by any compact, deprive or divest their posterity, namely, the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property, and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. Understanding this, it is easy to see the problem with Thunderfoot's assertion. Slavery, by definition, cannot exist in a free market. Slavery is every bit as antithetical to the free market as government tyranny.
The socio-economic scars of this history are graphically visible in the United States, and I speak with the experience of one who has seen more of it than most. You can still walk in many areas of America from a white neighborhood to a black neighborhood and watch the quality of housing drop and the number of people on the streets increase as their wealth decreases. It's visually conspicuous. The only way you can not see it is denial. Well, does anyone have any comments on the effectiveness of the healing of these socio-economic scars in a primarily capitalistic society?
But we're not primarily a capitalist society. We're primarily a corporatist society, and have been for full on a century now. These are not problems stemming from the free market. The reasons for the racial disparity stem from government actions. It's easy to see how the Jim Crow laws led to this. What isn't easy to see is how government attempts to help this situation, put forth by well-meaning people, have contributed to the continuing poverty of these areas. The victims of Katrina and other disasters are largely black because of government housing projects. They built these projects in areas where no one else wanted to live, but there's a reason why no one wants to live there. In Katrina, it was only the areas that were below sea level that were a problem. People who lived in the original French settlements got off relatively lightly. Another cause of this disparity is drug prohibition. Like alcohol prohibition before it, government has done nothing to actually stop drug use, but has increased crime as an unintended consequence. As more of our wealth is taken in taxes to fight this insane war on state, local, and federal levels, it's the poorest areas that suffer the most from the violent crime that results. One more problem facing these people is government licensing laws. Licensing laws are a form of corporatism to benefit politically connected businesses while keeping competition down. Young black women have tried to lift themselves out of poverty by braiding hair for a reasonable fee, using techniques passed down for generations from their African ancestors. Before too long, state authorities come in to shut down the business as the woman does not have a cosmetology license. Getting a cosmetology license generally takes thousands of hours of schooling, something these women obviously cannot afford. Moreover, going through these courses will generally teach them nothing at all about African hair braiding. Now let's put it all together. You're a young black person in a poor area. The government's housing projects have essentially segregated you from the rest of society. Few businesses are going to want to come into the area because of the high crime rates caused by the war on drugs. They might be willing to take on that risk if they can get costs low enough, but minimum wage laws nix that possibility. If you try to start your own business, you hit roadblocks set up by our corporatist government in the form of regulations, licensing laws, and so forth. Pretty much your only option to keep from starving is to sell drugs or go into prostitution or some other black market activity, a dangerous activity and one that is not very profitable for the lowest rungs of black market distribution systems. The free market increases wealth for everybody, regardless of race, color, creed, or whatever. It's the ultimate in non-racist policies. Government regulation intrudes to keep the poor down, and the free market, which was not allowed to act, gets the blame. This is sheer insanity. This is why I always say the political dogma is as dangerous as, if not more so than, religious dogma.